Absolutism in Mother Russia. Buja vista, my little American capitalist. Privet, comrades. Va vas lubu. All right. Absolutism in Russia is different from England, Spain, and France. Russia, because of its extreme long distance from the Western European capitals and its no access to a warm water port, no roads and highways, is cut off. And the lack of progress in Russia causes many in Russia to consider it part of Europe just out of courtesy, not as a real fact. Much of Russia does lie in Asia, but it's much lightly more populated, much lighter populated than the western part, but it's still so far away from everyone else. Why would you go there? And during a 30-year period from 1584 to 1613, there was a time of rebellion and chaos in Russia, very similar to the time to the era of warring states in ancient China. And in the end, the Russian nobles, called boyars, will elect a guy about your age, 17 years old, Michael Romanov, to be their next new leader. And Michael Romanov will found one of the longest lasting dynasties in world history. It will last all the way until 1917 and the beginning of the Russian Revolution. And so Michael and his next two successors will bring a lot of stability to Mother Russia. And the problem with Russia is this. Whenever progress was made, two groups caused problems. Number one is the Russian boyars. They were the nobles. Any progress, any modernization they felt would take away their power. So when things started to get good, the boyars would reach up, grab Russia by the ankles, and pull it back underneath the water. So they're 200 to 300 years behind everybody else. The Industrial Revolution, the ending of feudalism, trading in townships and all of that, they're way behind. Plus, the other group is the Russian secret police force known as the Streltsy. Both will create instability while hanging on to their power. And so the Tsar will have two young twin boys, Ivan and Peter. And the time of troubles had just barely calmed down. And there was still intrigue and assassination and violence. And this is how the two young boys grow up. And in 1682, Peter and his twin brother Ivan are about to inherit the throne. Their ascension was surrounded by this violence and bloodshed. And so in 1689, Ivan is murdered. A lot of people believe Peter did it or he ordered others to do it. Ivan was, older, but a little more, it was sickly and weak compared to the giant Peter. And so Peter now takes control. His older sister Sophia was ruling as a regent, so he excommunicates her, exiles her, and he says the bloodshed and the violence surrounding his childhood, he decided the power of the Russian Tsar or Caesar must be kept safe. He couldn't trust anyone, so he decides to build a massive, powerful Russian army. He said that with a powerful army, he could get resources and force people in Western Europe to recognize him. But he has to copy their technology. And much like Louis, Peter is a genius. I mean, he is a very bright guy. He's also a little bit savage. So in 1697, he goes over to investigate Western Europe in disguise, to study their shipbuilding and their industrial manufacturing and their mining. And he earns a coveted title of British boatwright, master shipbuilder, but he's 6'10", and he speaks with the Russian accent. So it's not very long before people figure out who he is, and he is invited to dine with the royals of Europe. Problem is, he doesn't understand the French etiquette, the eating with 12 different forks and spoons. And so he's seen as a barbarian. So he is sent packing back to Western Europe. And when he returns, he's sent packing back to Russia. He comes home with engineers and scientists to help him copy what he had seen in Western Europe. But he told these engineers that he needed their help in making things more efficient. When they get there, they find out that Peter didn't have any factories. He didn't have any mines. And they said, wait a minute, you brought us here to help make things more efficient. He's like, yes, duh, I did. And they go, well, you don't even have any. We're not making them more efficient. We're trying to build them from scratch. And he's like, yes, since I don't have any, whatever you do will make them more efficient. So a lot of them turn and just leave. And Peter realizes that he's going to be forced to pretty much do everything by himself. And so he realizes he has four main things that he has to do. Number one, he's got to tame the boyars and the streltsy. Two, he's got to control the Russian Orthodox Church, win the hearts and the minds of the people. Three, reorganize his government. And four, somehow develop some type of economy after all these engineers go home. And Peter says, well, what helped win me the throne might help save the throne. So he pursues each of them with ruthlessness and violence. And as he strengthens his monarchy, he diverts vast sums of money and energy to building the army. He is able to rip the nobles from their power by cutting off their beards and ripping the bell-bottom sleeves off of their jackets. These were the symbols of their authority. And he institutes something that Suleiman the Magnificent and Mehmed II will do of the Ottoman Empire, is he creates the table of ranks, which says that your position in the army that dictates your social and your political privileges. It's no longer your noble name and title. So after hammering the boyars, Peter will also have 1,200 of his streltsy executed. While he was in Western Europe, he heard that there was talk of a rebellion. And he leaves the bodies lay in the snow as people realize this is what happens when you make Peter angry. And Peter is going to deal with the Russian Orthodox Church in the same way. To prevent the clergy from opposing his plans of modernization, he removes the head of the church, the patriarch, and demotes him and places a non-religious person called a synod, one of Peter's buddy, in charge. The synod ran the church and was told to do by Peter. And so the church is made a part of Peter's governing bureaucracy. All right? They went along with reforms because he was the boss. When it comes to organizing his government, Peter adopted the Swedish college style of administration. And what that meant was it removed all department chairs, all, presidents, vice presidents, and said everyone here is of equal rank and power. Knowing that in some arenas people were afraid to give their honest opinion because they didn't want to make their boss mad or make them look bad, well, if we're all equal, now I'll get more truthful and better input. And Peter's ministries, like other monarchs, were very small, so he could remain hands-on. And they focused in the area of taxes, foreign affairs, who's an ally, who's an enemy, who are we going to war with, and somehow developing an economy. Peter hoped that this would get better opinions and better leaders in his country. And Peter wanted to learn how to manufacture iron, how to mine iron ore and coal, turn it, smelt it into iron to make weapons for war. Not only to build his army, but to have something to export to the other European countries to make money with. However, Peter, while he develops a big army, he's going to make several mistakes. Why have a big army if you never get to use it? He also needed access to a port that never froze, so he could ship things to Western Europe. So he decides in 1700 he's going to attack Sweden to get access to warm water, and he loses. And then he goes and he attacks the Ottoman Empire, and he loses that one too. 1703, Peter goes back to Sweden and wins enough land from them to build his winter palace in the beautiful city of St. Petersburg, where he built a smaller version of Versailles, and he now rules from his capital and makes the other Russian nobles, boyars, live right next to him, just like Louis. And then he will fight a couple more wars with the Ottoman Empire, trying to get a port in what is today Sevastopol on the Black Sea. And Peter loses many of them. But he does go a long way in gaining a modernization, reducing the nobles' power, bringing modernization and an industrial economy to Mother Russia. Unfortunately, Peter was so focused on running his monarchy that while he reigns for 43 years, he was never able to train a successor. And while he makes modernization a distinct possibility, when he dies, there is no one with his force of will, his vision, his raw power and charisma. So when he dies, the Russian boyars again will take his weak-minded descendants, grab them by the ankles, and pull Russia back down once again into the ooze. And they will stay behind while everyone else modernizes with the Industrial Revolution. Russia will once again remain behind. All right, guys, up next is Akbar and Suleiman.